Hey, what's happening? Welcome to the Pleasure Points podcast. I'm your host, James Rohr. I'm an acupuncturist and a love and dating coach. I am committed to exploring all the ways that we can have more fun and enjoyment in this life. And I know that all starts with being in flow, feeling good, feeling aligned, feeling like you're connected to your sense of purpose, that fire of vitality that Chinese medicine talks about is properly stoked and you're feeling nice and good and happy and healthy. So this Pleasure Points podcast is part of that work, my contribution out into the world to help you find that good mood, uncover some things, see things a little bit differently, tap into your power, allow you to experience the mystery of the world in a way that maybe you haven't been doing before. I've been blessed to have some amazing teachers and mentors in my life. And quite frankly, I've just had some experiences happen that were so obvious to me that I couldn't ignore them, because if I could have ignored them, I probably would have. So I'm super stoked that you're here. You can find me on Instagram at James E. Rohr. Pleasure Points Podcast at Gmail gets me too. And my coaching work is at invitinginlove.com. That's the hub for all of my dating and relationship work, where it's not so much about what you text. It's not so much about what you say to somebody or what you wear. It's much more about how are you feeling? How connected are you to your heart power? How connected are you to your true energy source? And are you able to communicate that and bring that out into the world in a good way? Or does anxiety win out and you find that you crawl back into a shell of these old patterns? So if that sounds like you and you're struggling with your dating and relationship life and you know that you need to regain this powerful connection to yourself before you can get out there in the world, then check it out, invitinginlove.com. There's a masterclass. I'd love for you to look at it. Hit me up after you see it. Let me know what you think. And yeah, here we are. So without further ado, let's dive into the show. So I was sitting here getting ready to start recording, and I got a text from a friend of mine who forwarded me this quote from some guy on Instagram. And he says, "I never knew how strong I was until I had to forgive someone who wasn't sorry and accept an apology that I never received." And she was pretty stoked on it. And I had probably the exact opposite reaction. I think that this idea of forgiveness and sorry and all of this stuff is just like, in many ways, especially when we're talking about love and breakups, is this kind of veiled way to seem like you're working on yourself when it's just kind of an excuse to stay hooked into the bullshit, you know? So like needing an apology is like, it just has you connected to this person. You know, you're constantly waiting for something, right? You've already identified that you think they've done something wrong. And then you're just like sitting there and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting. And so like you get to count each day, or maybe it's the moments or the hours that go by, and you're just, I haven't gotten an apology yet. I haven't gotten an apology yet. I haven't gotten an apology yet. You know, and the person may not ever think that they did anything that was worthy of an apology. It's like, has anybody ever come up to you and said that, you know, they forgive you? Especially when you didn't think that it was needed. It's such a weird thing, and it's really kind of shitty. And it just shows like how selfish the entire endeavor of forgiving and wanting apologies can be. You know, and so this idea of like offering forgiveness, you know, when you say, I forgive you, right? This is like, it's like this sordid, messed up way that you still get to assert your rights and your wrongs. And you can like seem pure and holy and like the bigger person. And, you know, that's where this self-esteem and this healing from breakups can really be built on a house of cards. You know, it's built on this house of right and wrong and good and bad, which was the exact house that got you into whatever messed up situation you were in the first place. And so this idea of like, well, I'm going to forgive them and, you know, I finally forgive you. It's like people that do this are trying to reclaim their power, oftentimes by still making the other person wrong. I forgive you. And it's like, I didn't need to be forgiven. It's like, what? I forgive you anyway. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? It's just so weird, and it's like what I had suggested to her as a better quote would be something like, I never realized how strong I was until I had to surrender my belief about how things should go so that I could thrive in exactly what is. And this is really the whole point of everything that I do. If you've been paying attention to these podcasts, you know that so often, the conversation goes back to mindfulness, of paying attention, of awakening to what is, and doing our best to let go of all of the suggestions and the ideas that may alter a moment and an experience in a way that for you just doesn't lead to good feelings. It's like, this life is short, it's precious. And so the stuff from the past and all of the indoctrination that's happened in our lives, we want to become aware of it. Can't escape it. What I'm suggesting is just other suggestions, just other nonsense, filling your head. But it's nonsense that I particularly like and have found it helpful with myself and my clients, and it's something that I can really stand behind. This premise of paying attention, of awakening, bringing your awareness back into the moment. I'm reminded of a ceremony that I did in South Dakota a while back. I was basically praying and meditating on a hilltop, and over the course of the few days that I was out there, I became acutely aware of my actions and how everything that I do has an impact. So the image that came to mind is imagining yourself in the center of a spider web, and that coming off of your body and connected to your body are, tendrils or filaments, energetic cords going in all the different directions. And if you want to move a little bit to the left, the filaments on the right are going to be a little more snug. They're going to pull a little bit tighter. And then you can move the other way, and those are going to pull really tight too. Maybe you move forward or you move back. And there's all these impacts. Everything that we do sends out a ripple across the energetic filaments. And, if you think about your immediate surroundings and your family and your relatives, and imagine them like really close to the center, they're going to feel the brunt of the motion that you cause on the web, and then it goes out a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further. I wouldn't be surprised if we find out that this kind of energetic connection doesn't quite lose steam the way that we, can use hearing to tell how far away or how close something is. I wouldn't be surprised if we find that it doesn't really make a difference. I guess quantum particles, they've discovered that, but right now that's just on such a small scale. Anyway, the point here is to think about yourself in the middle of this web. And Chinese medicine has this great poetic way of saying, it's actually the name of a great book called The Web That Has No Weaver. We're constantly in this web. And the thing that I have found that destroys so much of relationships, and the reason that I think mindfulness is so important in coming back to accept what is, being able to kind of return to a state of equanimity, or even, maybe I like joy, but equanimity is probably a safer bet. It was when we come back into this state, we can start to pay attention to what it is that we are putting out into the web. What are your thoughts, your actions, your feelings, the things that you are amplifying? What is the impact that has on the web? And the thing that tends to destroy relationships, and that I certainly see with my clients who are in the dating game and in the dating world, that destroys their joy and enthusiasm, is when people get so focused on what's in it for them. So when you're sitting in the middle of your web and you're asking yourself, well, what's coming your way? And you're so focused on, who's pulling on the tendril here, who's not moving this. I wanted this person to do that. I should be getting some feeling over here. Right? That's not a joyful place to be. And so when you start thinking about yourself as a generator, and putting your attention to visualizing your family, your relatives, your ancestors, your children, and your friends and colleagues and people in your community and your state and your country, all around. And you start asking yourself, okay, what is it that I can do that can put a good current, a nice, happy, healthy vibe, a peaceful vibe into the spider web? This is a good place to spend some time. What is the impact that your thoughts and your words and your actions are having? And if you listen to last week's episode talking about words and language and how that can shape our thoughts and the way we see the world, and you think back to I think it was the very first episode that I had here, where I was talking about my experience with a bar of soap. Even these things that might seem inanimate can have some charge. There might be a consciousness that's there. So much so that your thoughts, your words, your feelings, your actions, the mood that you're putting out can have an impact. It's like I heard someone say sometime, they were like, moods are more contagious than viruses. I think there's some truth to that. So if you are struggling with your relationships and if you're out there in the dating world, and looking to making some changes and some shifts, one of the things that I have found to be the most powerful is, instead of asking yourself, what are you getting? Ask yourself, what are you giving? What are you bringing to the situation that is going to bolster and support and nurture the people around you and the things around you? And the more we can stay aligned in that heart-centered space, ultimately the more freedom and joy that there is. But I think that it also has to coincide a little bit with letting go of our ideas of right and wrong. So you don't want to be like, I'm bringing forgiveness to this situation. Especially with somebody who doesn't think that they did anything wrong. But what you could do is you say, I'm going to bring an open heart here. I'm going to bring a lot of patience, and tolerance, and compassion. And I might even bring a good mood. I think I've said this here on the podcast, but it's something that my clients have heard me say over and over again, which is, one of the things that really shifted in my life was when I heard my teacher say, it was probably for like the 200th time that I finally actually heard it. He said, if all you do in this world, in this life, is bring a good mood with you, that's a life well lived. And I think about that a lot. And I've really dedicated myself to bringing a good mood. And, honestly, the shift that I've done professionally, adding in a lot more the dating and relationship and love coaching, is really just an expression of my fascination and commitment to flow and to love and to bringing a good mood and giving my clients, supporting them with, coaching and courage and compassion and some strategy to help them also bring a good mood, maybe for the first time in their lives. Maybe especially when the data that's happening around them isn't necessarily that good. But to be able to bring that good mood is a radical act, especially when there's not much evidence to support that that's even warranted. And you're not bringing a good mood in spite of somebody and, feeling all superior about it. It's a humble thing. Just like the importance of curiosity. It's hard to really be curious in a way that's going to invite more connection if you're so focused on what's in it for you. And so working on creating the shift to come back to flow, to come back to the heart, and really fostering an awareness of what is in the moment, and beginning to see and pay attention and to step into this place of accountability, to see the impact of one's actions, to follow the filament, to see if you shake one energetic cord, to watch how it moves through the people around you, paying a special attention to the people that are closest to you. Because those are oftentimes the people that we treat the worst. I've certainly been guilty of that. And if they're that close to you, it's awesome because you get an opportunity to make a change really quickly and to see the impact of that. Offer kindness and patience where before you were short and mean. See what happens. You might actually get a different outcome. Or the outcome might be the same and it just doesn't matter because you don't care because you're bringing a good mood anyway. You know, what's to be gained by holding on to the negativity? What's to be gained by holding on to the grudges and the resentments? You know, I think that approaching forgiveness, it's not about, coming from a place of being holier than thou or doubling or tripling down on this really intense version of right and wrong. It's just about saying, hey, life is short. I want to bring a good mood. I want to be able to go anywhere, be with anybody, and feel as good as I can possibly feel. And I used to hate that, I would fight him on it. He's like, yo, you got to just bring a good mood. I'd be like, no, I've got to do things. I have to create all sorts of things and build this, healing empire and whatever, all of this stuff. And then one day it just struck me. I was like, yeah, what if I just did bring a good mood? Wouldn't that be radical? And as I've committed myself to that, I'm certainly not perfect, but as I've committed myself to that, my whole universe has changed. I identify more and more opportunities of what can I contribute here? What can I give to this group of people or this person that's sitting here? I'm way less concerned about what I'm getting back because I'm filled up by the breath and by the focus on the moment. I'm not saying I'm perfect, far from it. But using this as my North Star has really helped me to recalibrate. And I find that when I am out of balance or not feeling awesome, I can come back much, much more quickly because I have a clear focus. Yeah, okay, I can bring a good mood here. And being mindful that it's not at the expense of anybody else. It's putting yourself back in this energy of giving. And I know that there's a lot of people that from relationships before, they said, all I did was give. All I did was give. All I did was give. And listen, I was there. I used to have that story too. She would probably debate that, if the truth of it, but that was the story I was telling myself, and I lived in that. And what I realized was that I gave so much because I needed to give. I needed to be with somebody who I felt was taking a lot because giving was in my wheelhouse. It was my comfort zone, but it wasn't a true gift. I was looking to get back certain things, attention, kindness, whatever. It was a selfish kind of giving. And so for you that are out there giving, and especially if you say, I'm never going to give as much as I gave before from a past relationship, well, it wasn't a real gift. So for me, I think the healing work, the work, the inner work, if you will, that I like to do with my clients and that I continue to do on myself is simply to say, okay, what other veils do I need to remove from seeing this moment as clearly as possible? How can I awaken my senses and tune in more often than not? so that I might be able to see and recognize the love that is present in all things, that's already there. How do I bring my own body, mind, and spirit back into balance so that I might be able to be of an energy of love and of flow, to be able to enjoy and relish and delight in these moments so that I have more energy to give, to bring a good mood, to have a nice time, to make a contribution of something that is positive and supportive, and hopefully also brings other people back to their moment, to experience what's here, instead of just having all these kind of ravages of the past or fears of the future that can hijack everything. There's other dating coaches out there that are like, oh, you've got to text this, you've got to do this, and, this is how you attract a guy so that he never leaves, and, this is how you get, 40 women to sleep with you in a week, and like all that bullshit. Sometimes, yeah, what you say matters, obviously, right? If you pay attention last week, I talked a lot about that. But much more important than that is tuning into your own frequency of love, checking in with your own energy field, putting your mind and attention to what are the ripples that you send out all around you in that web that surrounds us. And when you can feel really proud and happy, and when you are exuding a clear and consistent message that is of the frequency and the vibration of the kind of relationship that you want to attract, then the relationship really becomes inevitable. And what's cool is that it isn't something that you need to, necessarily fill a huge void in your life. Instead, it becomes a symphony where your 2 heartbeats or 3 heartbeats, if you're into that sort of thing, where they all can find a harmony together to bring an even greater mood to yourself and to the people around you. And so if we start putting our attention, imagine what is it like to have that energy that extends off of you? What's the impact that you have? And if we spend less time thinking about the impact that other people are having on us, particularly if it's heavy, negative, not consistent with bringing a good mood, then flip that directionality around and ask yourself, what can you offer? What can you offer them? What is the antidote, perhaps, that you have to some of that suffering? Because selfishness is the surest way to make sure you don't get what it is that you're looking for. Particularly when it comes to relationships. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you want to, all these things, right? Context matters. So being selfish in the sense of like, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm not going to go out because I have to rest. Like, there's a huge value in that. But if you're entering into specifically conversations, specifically uncomfortable or difficult conversations with someone that you've been in a relationship for a long time with, or if you're on a first date or a second date and the formula that is running through your head that whole time is what's in this for me? What am I going to get out of this? Then, you might as well have just stayed home or not even spoken. So one of the things that the guidelines that I find to be incredibly helpful, especially heading into a harder, difficult conversation, is to ask myself, what am I offering here? What is the opportunity that this person might have in this conversation? And it's not an opportunity to see how awesome I am, though that's an opportunity that's always there. What is their goal? Where do they want to be? How do they want to feel? And how might this conversation that I'm about to have, or that we're having, how are the words that I'm about to speak going to facilitate them getting to that place? It's a very, very, very different way of living. And quite frankly, it's the opposite of how I spend a lot of my own thoughts and life. I've done some nice acts, but to have my heart be in sync like this. There's a congruence that I have in my life now that I haven't had probably ever before. And it's such a cool feeling. I love it. I suggest that you do the same. So if you're looking for homework this week, think about it. Think about the energy that's coming off of you. Think about how you're pulling on those filaments. And think about what it is that you can do. Don't think about it. Do it. What steps can you do to bring a good mood this week? Where can you give where perhaps you've been thinking and asking yourself, what's in this for me? And see what happens. Report back. I'd love to hear from you. I've been appreciating the feedback that I've gotten from you guys, especially the last few weeks. So let me know what's going on, what you like, what you don't like. How is this experiment running for you? You can find me on all the things. Instagram at James E. Rohr, Pleasure Points Podcast at gmail.com, and my website, invitinginlove.com. There's a masterclass there. Got lots of good things, all about helping you to restore that state of flow so that then you can find a partner to match and to be in harmony with all the good vibes that you're putting out. So thank you guys so much for being here, and I will catch you next week.